Hola yogis, let's talk about Japa mala today. I've got my dog Zoe behind here snoozing because it's very warm today down here in Mexico. And I've got in my hands some mala beads. This is known as a mala. And the practice of chanting is known as Japa mala. Japa means repetition, and mala, of course, refers to this. This is a really big chunky one, but it is 108 beads, which is the standard number. You can also get them in shorter lengths. I think you can get them in 54 or 27 beads, or some you can wear around your wrist. But do know that you should not be wearing this as jewelry. It's not meant to be a fashion statement, even though you see that happen a lot. I think people who are newly enamored of yoga really like to have something to wear to show it off. But that's not what this is for. This is a sacred part of your practice. It's sort of, you treat it like a relic maybe, or a sacred tool, because that's what it is. It's a tool for keeping track of the number of repetitions of our mantra. It is also sort of a battery that stores the vibrations from the chants that you're uttering. They literally build up in the mantra and become more powerful and more potent over time. And they also help connect you to the living audio or vibrational form of the mantra itself. So when I say that, I mean every mantra that's ever been uttered, and there must be thousands, I don't know how many there are, some very popular ones though, they all are living things, living, evolving things. So you think of something like Om Namah Shivaya. How many millions and millions of repetitions of that mantra must have been uttered? They are ever vibrating collectively as a vibrational form in the ether somewhere. I say somewhere, there is no somewhere, but it's vibrating still. And every time it's chanted by someone, that person's utterance gets added to the collective vibration of that living vibrational form of the mantra. And then when you, if you say, choose to chant Om Namah Shivaya, when you are there chanting on your beads, not only do you contribute your own devotion as well, but it sort of distills and feeds back to you the energy of all of those utterances, that entire vibrational form of the mantra, and it helps to charge these beads. So you're passing the bead one through your fingers for every repetition of the mantra, and it is storing up your vibrations from your voice or your mind. If you're chanting silently, that still creates a vibration, as well as connecting it to that higher vibrational form. So this is a sacred thing. You don't want to show it off as a fashion statement. You don't want to pass it around to your friends, especially if it's someone who doesn't approve of your yoga practice or thinks it's nonsense, doesn't trust it, that kind of thing. You want to keep this pure and sacred. There are also ways that I won't go into here because you can look them up on YouTube if you want to find out, but there are ways to condition these and to clear them when you first receive one so that you start fresh. You're not using anybody else's vibrations. It's not feeding back to you the vibrations of the person who made it, for example. You can also get consecrated malas. Sorry, I have one here. Excuse me just a second. This is actually the one I normally use. And this one is made of Rudraksha beads. So Rudraksha are the seeds of a plant that grows in South India. And they've got tiny little ridges on them. And they're very tactile. I prefer this one because it's smaller, it's easier for me to handle. And it came to me consecrated, which means it was already imbued with divine energy from a guru when I received it. It came from India. So if you can find one like that, that will just make your practice that much more potent. So I encourage you to do at least one round of mantra on your mala every single day. If I didn't say this already, you should buy a mala that you really, really love. I want you to enjoy this. I want this to be a natural object of your devotion. So don't buy something that's ugly, that doesn't feel right in your hands. Consider it a tool and an instrument that's essential to your practice, because it is. Not only is it storing up the vibrations from your chanting, but it is a tool for focusing your attention as you're doing your japa mala. So as you pass the beads through your hand, you're having to pay attention to the way that you manipulate the beads. You're also, of course, having to remember how to pronounce the Sanskrit, and it should be pronounced correctly, by the way. We'll get to that at some point. And when you're doing that, everything else will fall away. You will forget your problems for a little while. You may forget your name. You may forget that you have a body. You may get so engrossed in the mantra, and I am not exaggerating here. You can get just so attuned to the mantra that you simply become the mantra. Nothing else exists except the chanting. And that's a really beautiful thing. And if you chant the same mantra long enough, you work with that long enough, it will sort of install itself in your consciousness such that it will begin to arise on its own. There's a name for that. It's called Ajapa Japa. A-J-A-P-A, J-A-P-A. So japa means repetition. Ajapa, anytime you put an A at the beginning of a Sanskrit word, it negates the meaning. So ajapa means no repetition. So no repetition, repetition. It simply lives in you at that point. So if that happens for you, that's a really fortuitous sign, and welcome that and work with that even more. And especially welcome that if a mantra comes to you and you haven't chosen it, if it has chosen you in a sense, and all of a sudden you're hearing, say, Om Mani Padme Hum in the back of your mind, that means something is paying attention, something has noticed your practice and is offering itself to you, and you should definitely seize hold of that and work with it. It's a really magical, beautiful thing. So I find Japa Mala to be a really excellent way to begin to connect to the devotional component of your practice, your bhakti, because it's a very quick and efficient way to begin to kind of get above ourselves, to get out of our habitual experience of ourselves and into something that's more sacred, more meaningful, more pure, because we're essentially concentrating ourselves and our awareness down to a pure vibration of whatever it is that we're chanting, and that is in alignment with the divine. So that's Japa Mala, and let's look at how to manipulate the beads. Okay, so let's take a look at manipulating the mala now. So I've got two here that I showed you in the first video. This is the one with the lava stone. Just gonna get that to focus in properly. Got some lava stones on here and cedar, a little pine cone there, and this lovely tassel. And then these are my Rudraksha beads. And so you can see that the texture on these is kind of fascinating. They're tiny little seeds of a plant from South India. I should probably look up what the plant is called. And then the bead that's directly adjacent to the tassel on either one of these is called the Guru bead. So that's the one that you'll return to at the end. So I'm going to put the Rudraksha aside and show you how to chant on this bigger mala, or how to manipulate the beads. So Guru bead is here, this large one, and then I'm going to start on the next one adjacent to the Guru bead, so that I will end on the Guru bead. That's the way of honoring the Guru. So starting on this next one, I'm going to keep my index finger free and my pinky finger free. We don't touch the mala with those. Instead, we're going to hold the bead between the thumb and the ring finger. And then this middle finger is the one we use to pass the bead through the fingers. So let's say I'm chanting Om. I would chant Om. And then I would pull this next bead toward me and just advance my fingers here. Om. Pull. Om, pull. Om, pull. Okay. Pull, pull, pull. It's a little tricky to use these fingers because I think most of us are used to getting our index finger involved when we're doing anything with our hands. But energetically, there's a reason for that, because each of the fingers corresponds to a particular kind of energy, or a particular element, I should say. And then, if you're doing multiple rounds on the mala, say you're doing 5 rounds of something on here, you use your opposite hand, the free hand, to count by counting on the fingers, or counting on the ridges between the digits, the knuckle ridges. Do these have a name? They must have a name. So if I were doing 5, or I could just count on my fingers, right? I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Every time I complete a round. Some people do thousands of repetitions, and so they would use actually every ridge on the insides of the fingers for one round until they get to the required number of repetitions. And you can do the math for that depending on what your exercise is. So again, we're using just the ring finger and the thumb. If you support with the other hand, then again, keep your index and your pinky finger free and just pass through. When you return to the guru bead, you'll know because you might feel the tassel, or it's probably a little bit larger, or it might be constructed of a different material than the rest of the beads. But linger on it. Pay special attention. Offer some silent thanks to your guru, the guru, because the guru is everywhere. And then close your practice.